Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Franchise Show. This is the show, and I'm going to do it, where we get under the hat of all things franchising. And it's a live show. Well, it's live if it's December the 16th, 2025, at around 5:15 for about 50 minutes. And because it's live, we love you to get involved. So please pop in a comment, say hello, and get involved in our conversation. So what do we do each week on the Franchise Show? We take a new topic and we take a lovely guest. And this week, two lovely guests, in fact. And we have a bit of a deep delve into that topic. Now, before we get to that, let me introduce our lovely guests to you. First of all, we have Sarah Heyworth. Sarah, welcome to the Franchise Show.
Thank you very much. Glad to be here. Thank you.
Fantastic to have you here. And Sarah is the founder of Local Treasures, and she's going to get into that a little bit more and let you know what that is in a moment. And we've also got returning guest, Julie Waits. Julie, fantastic to have you with us again.
Hi, Harvey. Great to be back, and I am pleased to be on time.
Yes, last time Julie was on the show, she kept us waiting like the star she is. And I had to pad out, and I'm not very good at doing that, as you will see if you ever go back and look at that particular episode. And Julie is, of course, from the Franchise Company. It's great to have you both with us. So today, the topic is social impact franchising. So it's going to be a really interesting one to get into. But before we get into the topic, it would be great for you both to do a little introduction to yourselves, so that our audience can understand how you've got into franchising and why social impact franchising is important to you. So let's start with Sarah. Sarah, perhaps you could do a little introduction to yourself.
Yes, thanks. My name is Sarah Heyworth. I run Local Treasures, and Local Treasures is a home services franchise business. The home services we provide, we basically provide a range of home chores. So we do gardening, handyman work, companionship work, cleaning work, dog walking, shopping, all sorts of things that our customers might want. The key part of the social impact that we provide is that through providing local flexible work opportunities, so for the people that do the work, the majority of them are older workers. So older workers who, probably mainly for financial reasons, they need to keep working for as long as they possibly can. We call our workers treasures from Local Treasures. So most of our treasures keep their hand in, and they like Local Treasures mainly because of the flexibility. We're one of the very few organisations that allows people to work truly flexibly. So you can work 3 hours with Local Treasures this week, 7 hours next week, nothing the next week. It's completely up to you. And I suppose the main point is because work is good for you. Work keeps you, particularly as you get older, work keeps you financially independent, socially included, and it keeps you fit and healthy.
Love it, really love it. What a fantastic thing to do as well. And I think you're absolutely right to keep working in some way. It has such a huge amount of health benefits and of course financial benefits. But
Yeah.
Love that, really love that. Julie, lots of people of course are going to know yourself, but perhaps you could give a little introduction to yourself and also why social impact franchising is a bit of a passion project and important to you.
Yeah, hi, Harvey. So I've been running the franchise company for over 30 years. And before that, spent 15 years in business, running 2 different business franchises. And to cut a long story short, during the journey of running the franchise company, one of the lawyers that we were working with asked me to talk to a charity, and the charity was delivering mental health support to India, to villages in India on a self-help basis. And basically, we used the tools and techniques of business franchising to help that particular project scale and grow their impact in India by using what we knew about franchising to enable that to happen. And that really took me on a journey. And the gentleman who I worked with, introduced me to someone else who was setting up another charity in London, which was specifically focused around scaling social enterprises. And again, that led an amazing journey where we took all of the tools and techniques and things that we developed for the business sector and transferred them and transformed them and reworked them to be effective for the social sector, and started a range of different projects and programs. And I think, as the saying goes, one Sunday afternoon, I found myself on a plane to Uganda to help with the scaling of healthcare in and around Kampala for women and young children. And it was at that point I really stopped and thought, how has this happened? What am I doing here? And actually, what can I contribute? But I realized when we got there very quickly that, it's all about knowing how to scale and grow organizations and then adapting that knowledge and those techniques to whatever organization that you're actually working with. So, it's been an amazing journey, and I'm very honored to have been part of it.
Love it. What a story. Before we get too deep into our conversation today, I want to welcome a few people who have joined us here live, because I say it each week, you are the producers and the directors of this show. I've already started to write things down, but I normally show what I've written down, and it is normally that there. And that's because this show is not just about the three of us on the screen here today. It's about everybody. And it's about having this conversation together as to why these topics are important to our industry. So without further ado, let's recognize who's here. We have the lovely Simon Wise, already been mentioned by Julie today. Simon is a recruiter in our wonderful franchise industry. And he's put, hello, franchise friends. Well, hello to you, Simon. We've got the lovely Penny Hopkinson with us. Penny is one of our fantastic supporters, and I always like to support her and her book. Please scan the QR code to find out all about ops manuals, but here is her book, which is now covered in what I spilt on it. Sorry, Penny. And I got it the right way round today, you'll notice. So if you want to get your ops manuals the right way round, talk to Penny. Penny's put, hello, Harvey, Julie, and Sarah, and all franchise friends. Great to be here again. Couldn't get on last week. Well, I think Penny's been traveling about. So great to have you back, Penny, and looking forward to hearing your thoughts on all things social enterprise and social impact in franchising. Let's have a look who else we've got. We've got Katrina Newman with us. Katrina, welcome to the franchise show. Katrina has put, hello, Harvey, Sarah, and Julie, looking very sparkly today, Julie. Well, yes, that's it. Christmassy, of course. I mean, I hope you noticed that I've sparkled up here. Look at that. Actual Christmas lights where I'm sitting. So it's great to have you with us, Katrina. We have Sandra James with us. Hello, everyone. And Sandra is from the Cat Butler. I expect my cat might be making an appearance today. You never know. We got a few other people. We have Tim Morris with us. Always good to have Tim with us. Tim is a great asset to the franchise community. And of course, one of our lovely supporters with the bridge, and with Nikki Senior. Great to have you with us, Tim. And Tim has put, good evening, everyone. Great to be here. Well, it's great to have you with us, Tim. And please, everybody who's here, put in their thoughts as to how you can create a social impact within any franchise organization. It doesn't necessarily have to be the core, but how can you make a difference with your business, with franchising, and still make an impact in the community? Give us some examples, give us some ways that you can do that, ways you can give back to a community, because it's really important. And that's why we got this topic today. And finally, before we get to a question from Simon, let's recognize the fact that we have the lovely Leslie Flowers with us. Leslie is calling in from the USA. Leslie has a show on a Friday all about the book Think and Grow Rich. Made a great difference in my life, and Leslie is all about giving back to others. So it's fantastic to have you with us, Leslie. And Leslie has put greetings, Harvey, Tuck, and guests. Fantastic. Look, let's get straight to a question. So Simon put in a question here. Simon's put back in the day, the standard definition for social enterprises was profit making, not profit taking. Does this still stand true today? This is a great question, Simon, and I'd like you both to have a look at this one, actually, because it was something that I wanted to talk about. How do we have something that is a social impact or a social enterprise, but still is profitable and still helps franchisees create profit, but is also making a difference? Either one of you can go first. I can't pick, so you'll have to choose who has a chat first.
Do you want me to take that one, Sarah?
Sure.
So basically, in my head, there are two types of social franchises. There's, in effect, what's a social business, which is potentially, if you look at Sarah's business in terms of local treasures, it's an independent, standalone, business. It's operating and trading in a variety of legal formats, but limited company partnership, etc. It's creating profit, but it's also creating social impact. So that's a social business, and Sarah's particular business is obviously operating as a social franchise, and she will, give you more information about that. And then on the other side, you've got charities, social enterprises, what's called KICs, community interest companies, and their unit is predominantly to create social impact. But in order to do that, they have to be sustainable. So in the business sector, we talk about profit. In the social sector, we talk about sustainability, basically. And whilst they have different aims and objectives, if you like, the two are the same in that all entities, social businesses, social enterprises have to be profitable or sustainable in order to continue to achieve their social impact.
Absolutely. I think that's a really useful definition of the two, and I think it's going to help people in their mind, when they're trying to work out the difference between the two and what their business is and where it fits into the to the sector and to the community. What do you make of this one, Sarah? How have you approached your business in terms of profitability and that social impact that you're having?
Yeah, I think it's really interesting, and whoever you talk to has a slightly different take on it. And we have been funded in the past by two different organisations. One is called Unlimited, which is absolutely a social impact funding organisation, and they make it very clear, and they helped us in the very early days prove that you can be profit making and take profits from your business as well as being a social impact organisation. And the way that we did that was we have a clause in our articles which says that we will put 50% of our profits back into the business. So there are there are clear ways that you can put your money where your mouth is, particularly for Simon's question. And the second organisation that went down this path and was kind of unpicking all the different ways that companies call themselves, and that was Innovate UK. We got a big piece of funding from Innovate UK several years ago, which actually helped us decide that franchising was the route for us. But it was a social enterprise piece of funding, so every organisation on it had to be a social enterprise. And at the start, they thought that meant just charities or CICs, as Julie was saying. But actually, where they got to was actually where they're the innovation agency. They want to build successful businesses through their innovation. And that success to them were businesses that could also make a profit. So they went down on the side that the businesses that they funded in that were social impact organisations that had a clause in their articles to put back a certain amount of their profits that they make into the business to create more. And you had to prove that it would then create more social impact.
Yeah, that's it. There's nothing wrong with profit, and like Julie said there, and like you've alluded to as well, that a business, a charity, a social enterprise has to be sustainable. And I like that shift in language, because it's quite an important shift in language, actually. And there's nothing wrong with making profits, but I think that that's quite a useful piece of language to use when you've started off. That spark of that idea for the business was to do something, to give back, to do something good with the business. How do you keep that within the realms of making that social impact and keep it down the right path? And I really like that. We've got some good questions coming in, so I'd like to keep the momentum up and get to some of these other questions now. Let's have a look at a question here from Sandra. Sandra's put, what are the most common mistakes you see franchises make when they try to embed social impact in their model? I really like this one, Sandra, actually, because there are hundreds of franchise businesses. Some of those don't have social impact or that at their core, but most people want to do good. Most people want to help one another. So if you are an existing franchise, let's take this as an example, and you want to inject some social impact into your business, you want to put some element of that into your business to do some good. What ways have you seen that done well? And as Sandra said here, what mistakes do people make when they try and do this? Let's go with Julie first on this one. I'll help you out this
time. I think ultimately, whatever you're trying to do in terms of achieving social impact has to be done from the heart. So it has to be done for real, true reasons to achieve good, rather than to tick a box or to achieve your corporate social responsibilities. People can achieve their corporate social responsibilities in a variety of ways, including just giving money, basically. But a true social franchise, has social impact at the heart of what it does, and it is a large part of its raison d'etre, rather than a little bit that's added on to look good from a PR point of view, basically. But there are lots of organisations that do achieve real social impact as part of their normal day-to-day business activities. And in the franchising sector, we've only got to look at things like domiciliary care. Domiciliary care has a huge social impact. And a lot of the domiciliary care companies, most of the domiciliary care companies are set up on a profit-making basis, but the work that they do undoubtedly is, second to none, basically. So it's really about, being genuine in what you do and having that as one of the core values of the business or the social enterprise, however way you constructed for me.
Love it. I love that. And I think you're absolutely right. It does have to come from the heart. It can't be a box ticking exercise. I love those examples of the domiciliary care franchises. I've had the absolute honor and pleasure of talking to many of the founders and owners of those types of businesses. And they've all got one thing in common. It's all started with something in their heart, right? Of wanting to do better, of wanting that industry to be better, that care to be better. So, I think that's a big point to talk about, whether it's that spark of an idea that you want to do something good that's come from your heart, or whether it's how do I make my franchise better for the community I serve. If that is in your heart, then I think that's really, really powerful. Sarah, when you started your business, let's talk about that. What was that spark? What was in your heart when you started this? What did you see that made you feel that this was such an important thing to do?
Well, actually, it was truly from the talking to the workers. So I'll use, a kind of normal language. We call them treasures, but talking to the workers. So the older workers that we have, and how they universally needed, I thought, they're just doing it for a hobby. They're just doing it because they love me. And actually, universally, they needed to earn money to make ends meet. And so they were running out of money by the end of the month because their pensions weren't giving them enough money to pay the electricity bills at the end of the month. And so I didn't set out to create a social impact business. I set out to create a business that actually suited me, because I'd just moved house and I needed to find loads of people to help me around my home. But then I had the idea that the kind of person I needed to help me around my home was my dad, and he lived a million miles away. And so my dad was really experienced. He was a great gardener. He was a great handyman. He was great with the kids because he was an ex-teacher. And so I wanted someone like my dad to come and help me. And so I found lots of people like my dad, and they told me their stories. And they told me that you have to build something that's flexible, because I can't work next Tuesday, even though it's this Tuesday and I am working. And that was really the core. So we built, I think it's, I learned later that it's called user-led design. So we weren't designing it around what I thought the business should be. We were designing it around how the workers wanted it to be designed, because we needed them. I mean, today I've been sitting quite nicely in my nice warm office while we've had gardeners out raking up the leaves, getting houses ready for Christmas. We have people cleaning other people's bathrooms and bedrooms, and we've got to be really respectful that if we want people to the workers to keep doing that, we've got to provide them the kind of business that they want to work in. So that's our element of social impact, that it kind of came from it didn't really come from the heart, but it came from their needs. And we built the business around them because we need them to keep working, because they are the heart of the business, I suppose, to go back to you, Julie. I think I have something to add to Sandra's question, and it's a great question, Sandra. I think not necessarily mistakes, but opportunities when franchises try and embed social impact is to measure the thing that you want to move. So what impact you want to change, then I think find ways to measure it, because then at the same time that you're talking about what revenue you delivered this month, or how many new franchisees you brought in this month, you can also, that then starts to become part of your narrative and starts to just become, and then you can embed it more naturally in. That's the way. So rather than a mistake, it's definitely something that we then started really early on. We talked about we collected quotes from our treasures. So the fact that we help them pay the bills at the end of the month and things like that. But we also talked about money earned.
I think that's brilliant. I think, one of the things that you've said there that really resonated with me, Julie mentioned there about it coming from the heart. It came from the hearts of those people you were talking to. It was really what they wanted. And I think if anyone is looking at starting any franchise business, and look, I like to talk about a franchise business that's doing some good. This is why I wanted to talk about this. But if you are thinking of doing that, then talk to that community that you're trying to serve. Find out what they want, just as you rightly said there, Sarah. It's not about how you want and how you want to shape the business. It's about how that community that you're going to serve wants that business to be. Really important. We've got some great questions coming up from Penny, another one from Sandra, from Tim, and also from Simon Wise. So let's go straight into this. Let's have a look at this comment from Penny. Penny has put, I was involved with the first social enterprise franchise, Hidden Art, over 20 years ago. Many aim to partner with local authorities. What, if any, are the pitfalls of this type of network development? Well, I saw you both nodding there. So Hidden Art clearly isn't hidden for you guys. What do you make of this one in terms of dealing with local authorities when you have a social impact franchise? I know in the domiciliary care, some teaching franchises, they have to do that quite a lot. Have either of you had an experience in this?
We're both nodding, aren't we? I'll get first on this one, Julie.
No, please do. Great question, Penny.
Yeah, really good question. I would just say it takes so long when you're dealing with local authorities, and I think so this is in my experience with local treasures, that you can have fantastic conversations with local authorities, and they definitely, there's a need for all sorts of franchises that are providing social impact. So just the care sector that Julie's talking about, the local treasures services that we provide. But it's local authorities are difficult to cut through. You talk to one person and then, the next person you need to start all over again, the next person you need to start all over again, which is fine, but it takes an awful long time. And then they have to go and get approval, and then the budgets have been cut. And I think I did some work a while ago for the Centre for Ageing Better, so an organisation that supports older people to keep working. We looked at local authorities, and I can't remember the figures, but an awful lot of them are in real financial difficulties at the moment. So it's even harder. But I mean, I'm sure it was hard 20 years ago. So all kudos to you and Hidden Art, Penny. But I think it's really difficult now. So starting out on a journey that involves local authorities, I would say, is quite fraught with a lot of different pathways, a lot of different people, and there isn't the ready cash available. I mean, I am in East Hampshire. All the local councils in East Hampshire are changing because of the government changes to local authorities. We also work a lot with Surrey. Surrey's gone from something like 8 or 9 different councils down to 2. So there also is a danger that the person that you've developed a really strong relationship with and are just about to do a deal with, they might not be there next year. So that's really hard as well. However, if you can get it, I'm sure it would be fantastic. We never got that far.
No, absolutely. And what do you make of this one, Julie?
So my immediate response when I read Penny's question, it did make me smile, because experiences in the past is basically try to get a local authority to enter into and sign a franchise agreement. And it's challenging. So again, in terms of some of the structures and the different type of structures, some of the organisations that I've worked with want to partner with other social enterprises. So again, a great charity that I've worked with is called Invisible Cities. And Invisible Cities is based in Edinburgh. And the lady who set it up had a background in tourism and also had worked with people who'd experienced homelessness. And she put the two together and developed a charity which basically engages with people who've experienced homelessness and trains them to be tour guides. So Invisible Cities in Edinburgh runs walking tours around Edinburgh, and I would encourage anyone visiting Edinburgh to go on one of their walking tours. And they have now set up and operate on a social franchise basis in Cardiff, in Manchester, in York, and various other locations across the country. And their target franchisee is not an individual, it's an organisation that's already involved in working with people who have experienced homelessness. So they will try and partner with another charity, another CIC, whatever, to do that. And it works really well. But try and do that with a local authority and all of the, the white paper stuff that goes with that is difficult. And the other challenge around that is actually getting someone within the organisation to take ownership, because on a social franchise, even if it's owned by a charity, you need someone to take the core role within the social franchise and to take ownership of it. And trying to get that within a local authority is, again, very challenging. So probably, when we're developing and bringing things to market, my advice is always say, look for the path of least resistance to get you off and running and get you pilots and, get the thing actually in the marketplace. trying to partner with a local authority as a franchisee is not the path of least resistance.
No, it's certainly not. I've certainly had similar experiences to what you're both talking about there with local authorities. I mean, look, it can be part of a business plan, absolutely, but I think you're absolutely right, Julie. Take that path of least resistance, because, to make an impact, you want your business to flourish. Look at me, doing a segue to that QR code there. But we've got to about the midway point, and Julie, perhaps you could just allude to the QR code that is on our left about the Flourish project, and people can scan that, and they can take themselves there and find out a little bit more.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Elvie. It's up to my left. So the Flourish project is a project I've been working on for the past 6 months or so with a lady called Rachel Ray. And Rachel developed, built, and subsequently sold the Bright and Beautiful franchise network. And Rachel and I worked together at the beginning of that and at various points during the journey. And we've, and again, this is, if you like, a passion of mine, and to try and hopefully create some legacy and put back and hopefully some great knowledge and development work. We've developed a program which is called Flourish, which is for existing franchisors who are on that journey, who are building the franchise network, who've actually started and might have got a few franchisees, or they might have 50 franchisees, and undoubtedly will be achieving and encountering some issues, some problems, some challenges. And it's really about trying to create strategic pathways, do some analysis of what's good within the business, what's not so good, improve, etc., to bring a strategic commercial approach to enable good franchises to grow and flourish to the extent that the owners can choose to do what they wish to do it, which is say stay, sell, or continue to grow the business basically. And that's starting. The first one's starting in February, but we've got a couple of events in January, and the QR code is to take you to one of those events if people would like to attend.
Fantastic. Well, please scan that QR code and get involved in that event. If you have just joined us today, this is the Franchise Show, and today we are talking about social impact franchising, and we have two lovely guests, Sarah and Julie, talking about that. It's been a great conversation so far, but if you are here, please get involved, pop in a question. We've got about 12 minutes left of the first part of today's show. We've got still some great questions coming up. Another one from Sandra, from Simon, from Tim, and from Katrina and Leslie. So let's get straight back into this. Perhaps we can go to yourself, Sarah, for this one. This is one from Sandra. She's put, how do you balance brand-wide social impact goals with giving individual franchisees flexibility at local level? Yeah, I think this is a great question, and I think it alludes a lot to what you said about that flexibility. But how do those things sort of sit together?
Yeah, it's a real world situation for us. So a couple of our franchisees aren't really interested in our social impact, although in practice, although they talk a good game. So when we met them, they really believed in our social impact because it's part of our story. However, I have a bit of a story to tell, which was told to me by Innovate UK, and it was about older adults. And it was the Ford Focus is apparently, or certainly was at some point, the best-selling car in the UK. And the Ford Focus was originally designed to be a car for older adults. So it had specially designed, it had really big wing mirrors, had really big rear view mirrors. It had a particularly thick steering wheel, had really easy to open inside and outside handles and things like that. So it was designed as a car for older adults. But Ford, being really clever marketeers, sold it to everyone. And because it was so easy to use, it was bought in its droves by older adults, but also by mums with small kids, by young people who wanted really good visibility, by parents of young people, first of all, driving. And the reason I tell that story is if we had designed all our technology and all our brand and all that kind of stuff and said that Local Treasures is a business for older workers, then no one would really come, because older workers don't want to work for a company that is just for older workers. And no customers would use us if we're full of just older workers. So we've made our technology really easy to use for older workers, but that makes it really easy to use for everyone. And we've made the business really approachable. And one of the key revelations for us was our business model really works for franchising. And we tried quite a few different business models, believe me, along the way. And when we kind of got back to a kind of full circle and said, actually, the model that we built and the technology we built is perfect for franchising, then again, we've created a model that is, and franchising, I believe, is really great for social impact, that community kind of level that franchising delivers. But we don't sell it as such. We sell it as, for our customers, really helpful people that can help around with chores around your home, and for workers, flexible local work opportunities. So I think that's a bit of a long answer to if our franchisees don't need to push it, Sandra. But what we've done, we know that the business that they are running is really user friendly for older workers and therefore for any workers.
Love that. I love that. I mean, doing something good can also be just something good. It's got, two meanings to it, that exact phrase as well. And what a great story, because I think people can really understand. I didn't even know that about that particular car. But it makes a lot of sense when you think about it like that. But then also those features just work. They just work, and it doesn't matter whether you're old or young. They work. They're useful. They're convenient. They're easy, and therefore it works. So, perhaps at your heart, at your core, can be what you're trying to do. How you get there, and how you make that difference, can apply to all sorts of businesses, even if they were traditionally profit making and non-social impact. It's a really, really interesting point, that it can be about that, but it doesn't have to be about that.
Yes.
Really, really interesting. Love that.
I think language can, just one other thing, I think language can really help. So we talk to our franchisees about how they need to recruit experienced people to do the work, because, you don't want someone turning up in someone's home saying they're going to go do the gardening and it's the first time they picked up a rake or a lawnmower. So experience is another way of saying, kind of people who've been working for a few years. So, and so we talk about it in the way that it would suit the franchisees.
Yeah, language, we've said that I think twice today, actually. Language is very, very powerful and very, very important. And it makes a big difference in how a business comes across. Let's have a look. Let's quickly go to, we've got another couple of big comments here. But let's have there's a couple of quick comments here from Leslie. She's put, "This is brilliant." Well, thank you very much, Leslie. Great to have you with us. And she's put that you're actually cultivating your ideal clients. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I really encourage people to listen to Leslie's show. It's very powerful about how you can use manifestation and some really powerful ideas. And she's a lovely lady as well. Absolutely trying to give back to everybody. We've got the fantastic Joe Caruso with us. Joe comes on the show each week, mostly to try and make me pronounce the things that are in this particular message. Maybe I'm getting better, I don't know, but we're going to find out. Harvey, Penny and Sarah, hello from the snowy and white Christmassy Havre de Grace, Maryland, on the beautiful shores of the Susquehanna River on top of the Chesapeake Bay. I don't know. What you're going to have to do, Joe, is you're going to have to give me a score out of 10 how I'm doing on this. Okay. At the beginning, I think I'll agree. Yeah, absolutely. Joe is a fantastic resource in the USA. I would encourage anybody who's looking at franchising in America to talk to Joe. And he always adds great value to our conversations. So great to have you with us, Joe. Give us your thoughts on any social impact franchises that you've been involved in and how social impact has been involved in franchising. Katrina's put, loving this topic. I have wondered about it for some time. So good to be getting my questions answered. Well, look, that's what this is about. I said at the beginning, this is not a conversation between three people. This is a conversation in a community. So please continue to put your questions in. We've got about 5 minutes left. We've got a couple of good ones coming up here from Tim and from Simon. So let's have a look at Tim's. Tim's put, social franchising is such a great concept. I hadn't really given it much thought until I witnessed Meals of Hope in the USA in action at the IFA convention a couple of years ago. Do you find it more challenging to find franchisees in this sector? That's really, really interesting idea and point here. You know, is it easier or more challenging? What's been your experience?
I'm going to probably tell you exactly what Julie will say, because I have learnt everything I know from Julie. So, my point of view on this is that it does make it slightly more challenging, but it makes it a lot more helpful. So I have to make sure that I don't come across as a 7.2 out of 10 and 70%. I have to try and make sure I don't come across as a bleeding heart, because I'm not. And I make sure that I don't talk about the social impact first, because for franchisees, you know, that's kind of not what they're interested in, what's important to them, you know, becoming their own boss, running their own successful business, that kind of thing. But the helpful bit, so the challenge is that I don't talk about it too much, but the helpful bit is that we want people to become franchisees who will live and breathe the Local Treasures brand. And the Local Treasures brand it talks about experience, and we want experience. We champion experience in Local Treasures, and it's really important for us to be able to meet franchisees who understand that. And so it helps us filter people out and find the right franchisees. And we're getting there, you know, we're getting there. We haven't always got this right in the past, but I do believe that we're getting there and we're getting better at it. So it should be really helpful. And hopefully when we've got 50 franchisees, I can tell you, Tim, that 90% of them are, you know, ingrained, and they understand what we're trying to do with Local Treasures, because we're trying to make it into a bit of a movement.
Fantastic. Great answer to that question. Let's have a look at Simon's question, because we've got a couple of minutes left. So let's have a look at this one. Simon's put, how do you make it viable for pensioners to continue working, thinking here about the state pension increases, putting more pensioners into a tax-paying bracket? Are they engaged on a self-employed basis? This is a really interesting question as well. You know, it's a question that applies, just like you said before, not just to more experienced people, but to anybody. You know, if you're looking at any job, any salary level, you might go up a tax bracket and it might have implications. How has this normally been sort of received in your organisations?
Well, the direct answer to that is yes, they are engaged on a self-employed basis. So all of our workers are self-employed, all of our treasurers are self-employed. And the average amount that our treasurers earn is 300 to 400 quid a month. So they are topping up their pensions, and so because that's, you know, that's how much they're short, particularly with the cost of living crisis. In terms of doing their should they need to do a tax return, should they earn so much money through Local Treasures that they need to do a tax return, we also have ex-accountants or retired accountants within Local Treasures who are now treasurers, and so we provide them as support for our workers to help with their tax returns, because there is a barrier of getting people who've been on the payroll all their lives to come to Local Treasures and start being a self-employed worker. And so we need to help with that transition, if you like.
Oh, sorry, go on, Julie, please.
No, I was going to say, can I just pick up on Tim's question, because I thought it was a really, really good one in terms of the recruitment. And I think, like all aspects of franchise recruitment, it's about knowing and understanding what or who you're looking for, and actually, going out to try and reach and target that type of person or organisation. So again, in the social franchising sector, some social franchisees will be individuals, some will be charities, existing charities. In terms of the food sector, if we look at what's happening in the UK, the Trussell Trust Food Bank has been set up and aligned and grown, explosively by being aligned to churches. So the majority of the Trussell Trust food banks are aligned to churches. Whereas if you look at another organisation called Food Cycle, they've actually aligned themselves to universities. And a lot of the franchisees are linked to universities and their students, basically. So it's knowing and understanding, what you want, what your offer is, and sort of setting it up accordingly. And again, in terms of examples, if you like, of how, things can go wrong. A while ago, there was an organisation that set up, and they specifically wanted to recruit people, organisations, to set up new community interest companies, CICs, KICs. The problem is with the KIC, it's what's termed asset locked, which basically means you can't sell it, you can't get any value out of it. So they were trying to recruit individuals to set up KICs, which were then asset locked, and there was no way of them to benefit from it. So again, that ultimately didn't work because it didn't stack up and didn't make sense.
No, that's it. We've got one more question. We're going to have to answer this one fairly quickly because we've gone over by about a minute already for the last section of this show, but I want to bring up everyone's questions if I can. So let's get to this one. It's Daniel Higgins. I believe Daniel is from Greg's. Daniel, great to have you with us again. He's put, how do you select good franchisee? What are the things you look at? So we're going to make this the last one of this section of the show. And of course, that's going to go to the lovely Sarah. Are there some sort of key things that you look at there?
Funny enough, I was talking to my husband about this, who runs Local Treasures with me, and it goes back to language. I think it's key. It's the way that the franchisees, when you initially meet them or initially start talking to them, there's a few key words that or key phrases that you want to hear, which isn't just so how much is it, but talking about the support that we provide, talking about what the franchise package entails, talking about the business more, and talking about kind of size of territory and things like that. So it's more people who have done their homework before they come to us, I suppose. So they know what franchising is, and they've done a little bit of background work. I think but in terms of if we had three people in front of us who have done their homework, I think the bit about the social impact, which is why we're here today, if someone really gets it and they were all after the same territory and they're all looking at as good as each other on paper, if someone is more interested in the social impact or understands it more, we would go with that person.
Great. Again, it's coming from their heart, isn't it?
Yeah.
But love that. Well, we have come to the end of the first part of today's show. We don't like to keep people too much longer than around 50 minutes today. Julie, go on. You look so keen to say that.
It's only one word in terms of selecting: attitude.
Yeah, absolutely. And
I think you just summed up what I took 5 minutes to say.
Excellent. Well, look, this is now the part of the show where I will turn my camera off for a little bit because it's now technically illegal to see me without wearing a hat. Okay, so you can't see me unless I'm wearing one. And now I've got this beauty on. Look at this. And this was made by the lovely Paul Murphy at PJ Murphy and Sons Bespoke British Hatters. So if you'd like to get a hat like this one, please reach out to Paul. Now, this is the fun part of the show. This is where we're going to stop talking about franchising for a little bit and find out a little bit about our guests. But today, because Julie was on last time, we're going to find out a little bit about Sarah. I always like to make this a bit of fun. So I'm going to ask you if you've met anyone famous, or if you've got a claim to fame, or some sort of crazy wild hobby, something like that. Any one of those.
I don't really have a crazy wild hobby, unfortunately. So the only person I've ever met, I think, who's famous is Cindy from EastEnders. who I just think is just brilliant. And we met in a bar many years ago, and I think I bought her a glass of wine, but I can't really remember. But probably my mum would be pleased if I mentioned this, was when I was very little, we used to go to Sandringham every year to see the royal parade going into the church, and Prince Charles, as he was then, and now King Charles, stopped and said hello to me, and he said, "Hello, little boy." So that was my mum tells that story quite often. I think she might have even told me at my wedding. So
Oh, that's brilliant. I love it. Well, look, I also said you get your chance if you wish. Now, people can let me get away with this. No one has so far, but I'm always hoping there's a first time. You've been brilliant, both of you, are answering all of these fantastic questions today. But you get now an opportunity to ask me any question you like, if you want to. Now is the time.
I have a question. What's under the hat?
Well, that is a good question. No one gets to see what's under the hat. Well, apart from the other week when I said this is the time I turn the camera off and then forgot to turn the camera off. So people, what's under the hat? I think actually it's a good question, because I've told the story about why I came to be wearing hats, but actually it's come to, I don't know, it's come to mean what I stand for in a way, I suppose. When I put it on, hopefully the things we talk about, the things that I do are what I believe, and it's come to encapsulate something. So hopefully that's what is under the hat. And I also think it's our community, because I think I said, and Julie said about last time she was on, she was a bit late, so I had to try and do this on my own. And I realized very quickly that it's impossible to do it on your own, just like franchising. It's something we do together. So love that question. Anyway, we have now come to the end of the show. So it leaves me now just to thank our wonderful community. You are what makes this show special. I love the fact that you get involved and ask the questions. It's always fantastic. So thank you for taking your evening to be with us today. And of course, I'd like to thank the lovely Sarah and the lovely Julie for being with us as well. Thank you both very much. Now, next week on the Franchise Show, we are going to be talking about data-driven franchise decisions with Jason West from America. So it's going to be a good one. And he's going to have a lot to say about that. So that's going to be a good one to help you formulate how you're going to make your decisions. That is going to be the 23rd of December. So I'll probably have to wear a Christmas hat for that one. And that's going to be 5:15 GMT, 12:15 EST. So please join us for that. And until next time, my friends, take very good care. Cheerio.